Imagine a scenario where you're gainfully employed, but spending your nights and weekends working on a side project. It's just something you've been mashing together in your free time with a few friends at work. Now, pretend to visit yourself 5 years into the future and see that your little side project turned into one of the biggest communications technologies of the last 100 years. This is the history of Twitter. Today, Twitter is one of the most recognizable and influential social media platforms on the planet. How did it get there? These days, Jack Dorsey wakes up in his $10 million seaside home in San Francisco before starting his day as CEO of a social media company that attracts 326 million monthly active users who send out a staggering 500 million posts a day. How this all came about can look painfully straightforward. Dorsey invented the platform. It turned out to be a hit, and with time and experience, he ascended to his rightful place as CEO. But in a company like Twitter, which went through 3 CEOs in 2 years, the truth of the story may be darker than the bright bluebird. How was Twitter founded? On March 21, 2006, Twitter emerged from the ashes of another startup, Odeo. Evan Williams, flush with cash after agreeing to Google's acquisition of his last startup, Blogger, agreed to enter a business venture with his neighbor, Noah Glass. The two worked on a platform supporting what they saw as the new radio, podcasting. Leaving Google and taking one of his co-workers and friends, Biz Stone, Williams secured funding and began work on the podcasting platform Odeo. Along the way, a chance encounter led to a new employee, Jack Dorsey. Dorsey had been working in a coffee shop, writing basic code for a ticketing company, when Evan Williams walked in. Dorsey found Williams' email online and sent over his resume. A few back and forths and one interview later, Dorsey became part of the Odeo team. Despite the hype surrounding Williams' next venture, the platform gained little attention. Whatever the reason, the company hit rock bottom once Apple announced in 2005 that they would include podcasting in their juggernaut streaming service. Early Twitter began as an idea that Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey had in 2006. Dorsey had originally imagined Twitter as an SMS-based communications platform. Groups of friends could keep tabs on what each other were doing based on their status updates. Like texting, but not. During a brainstorming session at the podcasting company Odeo, Dorsey proposed this SMS-based platform to Odeo's co-founder Evan Williams. Evan and his co-founder Biz Stone, by extension, gave Jack the go-ahead to spend more time on the project and develop it further. In its early days, Twitter was referred to as Twitter. At the time, a popular trend, sometimes to gain a domain name advantage, was to drop vowels in the name of their companies and services. Software developer Noah Glass is credited with coming up with the original name Twitter, as well as its final incarnation as Twitter. The first tweet. Jack sent the first message on Twitter on March 21, 2006, 9:50 p.m. It'd read, "Just setting up my Twitter." During the development of Twitter, team members would often rack up hundreds of dollars in SMS charges to their personal phone bills. While the initial concept of Twitter was being tested at Odeo, the company was going through a rough patch. Faced with Apple's release of its own podcasting platform, which essentially killed Odeo's business model, the founders decided to buy their company back from the investors. Jack Dorsey, Biz Stone, Evan Williams, and other members of Odeo's staff facilitated the buyback. By doing this, they acquired the rights to the Twitter platform. There is some controversy surrounding how this all took place. It's questionable whether Odeo investors knew the full scope of the Twitter platform. Also, key members of the Twitter development team were not brought on to the new company, most notably Noah Glass. As a formality, Obvious Corporation was created after the investor buyback of Odeo in order to house Twitter. Twitter achieves explosive growth. Twitter was now on the cusp of its biggest growth spurt. The 2007 South by Southwest Interactive Conference saw a huge explosion of Twitter usage. More than 60,000 tweets were sent per day at the event. The Twitter team had a huge presence at the event and took advantage of the viral nature of the conference and its attendees. Twitter had its fair share of growing pains during its formative years. Twitter's user base grew at astounding rates, and quite frequently the service would be over capacity. When servers overloaded, an illustration by artist Yang Liu appeared on the screen. The illustration featured a whale being lifted out of the water to safety by 8 birds. The Twitter team used this image because they thought it symbolized the acknowledgement of the problem and that they were working on it. This error page went viral within the Twitter community and soon was dubbed the fail whale. Is it a 140-character limit or 280-character limit? The reason Twitter imposes a character limit on tweets is that Twitter was originally designed as an SMS-based platform. In its early days, 140 characters were the limit that mobile carriers imposed with SMS protocol standard, so Twitter was simply creatively constrained. As Twitter eventually grew into a web platform, the 140-character limit remained as a matter of branding. In 2017, however, Twitter decided that the 140-character limit was no longer relevant in the smartphone age, and it increased the tweet limit to 280 characters over minor protestations. Most tweets, the company explained, hover around 50 characters. When people needed more characters, they simply sent more tweets. The character increase was designed to help Twitter users spend less time condensing their thoughts and more time talking. User innovation on Twitter. As Twitter's user base started growing, a funny thing started to happen. Users created new jargon and different ways to use the service. Think of it as innovation born of necessity. Initially, users had no way of replying to one another on Twitter. Some users would include an @ symbol before a username to identify another user within a tweet. This became such a prevalent way to acknowledge another user that the Twitter team added the functionality natively to the Twitter platform. The same thing happened with hashtags, which are now an integral part of the Twitter ecosystem. This user-driven functionality is also the source of retweets. Users wanted a way to repost a message from a Twitter user while including credit to the user who originally tweeted it. So that was the story of today's most popular social media platform. In the next video, we will continue our discussion of Twitter from where we left off to the present.